Welcome to the Burlington Consensus, where we are convening scientific experts from academia, professional bodies and scientific societies from around the world, together with leading policymakers to present widespread support for the establishment of a new global science policy interface for chemicals, waste and pollution. We have a panel with us here today at the Royal Society of Chemistry in Burlington House in London, and this is a global hybrid event with many international attendees joining us online today.
We do know that pollution causes 9 million premature deaths each year, so it's really the largest environmental risk factor for death on the planet, and much of this comes from chemicals, but it is clear that chemicals are a very needed part of life, and when managed properly we can protect human health and environmental health. And so this panel, in its quest to provide a science policy interface and do horizon scanning, is absolutely critical.
Now, the UK are co-sponsors of the resolution to establish an intergovernmental science policy panel to support action on chemicals, waste and pollution, as we feel that an independent panel of this nature is crucial in achieving this concerted, united effort. Now, we strongly encourage other UNEA parties to support the resolution.
At present, there is a gap in the science policy interface on chemicals, pollution and waste. But there is strong scientific support in Europe and indeed globally for the creation of an intergovernmental panel on these topics.
Chemical waste and pollution form a global problem that needs to be addressed at a global scale, with many countries working together to achieve the same goal.
As most people know, I've actually chaired both IPCC and IPBES at different stages, as well as some other assessments on stratospheric ozone depletion. There's no question, in my opinion, that an IPCC IPBES type assessment can strengthen the science policy interface. And I think those assessments can actually be easily adapted to the issue of chemicals, waste and pollution.
If one of the things that we haven't talked so much about is the benefit of this panel in raising both public awareness and government awareness of some of these issues and the interlinkages between this biodiversity and climate change. If we think back 20 years to where we were on climate change, if it wasn't for the scientific community, it would never have been taken as seriously as it has been taken now, or is starting to be taken now. And the IPCC has been really critical in that.
Commonwealth Chemistry can play the role in bringing a diversity of voices to the discussion, including low and middle income developing countries, in order to overcome the barriers identified in the IPCC multi-stakeholder workshop on strengthening the science policy interface on international chemical governance.
Are there any global data on the nature of the biggest chemical pollution problems the world is facing? And secondly, do we know the scale of the challenge that we are faced with towards now to start addressing the chemical pollution?
The importance of this panel will be it being able to be independent and responsive to the needs, the challenges that various different countries are going through. So I think there needs to be a flexibility in that, because there will be things that are problematic in one place that won't necessarily be problematic in another.
I think there is something very much about, by bringing together the different experiences and avoiding the groupthink, but also drawing on experiences of people or countries that have addressed an issue and moved on, but actually that same issue is being addressed by another part of the world. So there may be known solutions already. It's a question of transfer and application coming through that to be delivery.
The real strength of a well set up intergovernmental panel like this is that it would be truly global, with voices truly global, and not just the European view or the North American view or the Australian view or whatever it is. You know, that's really important.
CIA supports strengthening the interface between science and policy making, and we're part of the International Council Chemical Associations, ICCA. How do the panelists see the role that the chemical industry can play in contributing to the new proposed science policy panel for chemicals and waste?
So you bring the skills, you bring the experience, you set up confidentiality, conflict of interest agreements, so that that knowledge is brought to the table, but not with representing the business plan of individual companies or indeed industries.
Quite often it's not government that will go out there and solve the issues. It is through industry and it is through other networks that actually the solutions will come. And therefore, to cut out or preclude any input, from the outset, I think almost you're destined to failure.
And as well, the Royal Society of Chemistry started a complementary campaign towards the end of last year, where organisations can support a declaration statement made by the RSC by adding their organisational logo. And here are some of the international organisations that have added their support to date, and it continues to grow.
I haven't heard anyone, from what they've said, or the questions saying this is not a good thing to do or what should be supported. It's almost moving on about how do we make it work then?
So the chemical science community really can make the world a better place, and all of us here today have an unrivaled opportunity to do just that. So now is the time to show the UN the strength of collective feeling from science and from policy in the UK, across Europe and the wider world, that with an intergovernmental panel on chemicals waste and pollution, we can protect our environment and protect our society and save countless lives.